Hello, my name's Gary Schotten, and I'm here in my machine shop, and we're talking about Inspiring Better Business, IBB Talks. And today we're going to talk about a subject called Details Matter. And sometimes we look at things in a successful business and we wonder, how did they get to be so successful? How do they get to step where they're at? What do I need to do to get to where they're at? I have that sometimes asking me. I'm not that far along and I'm not that big a business, but how did you get there? What's my next step? And it's kind of like the difference for me, it's kind of like the difference of a long distance runner and a sprinter. You know, there's a lot of pride and there's a lot of attention given to the fastest man in the world. But you know, the long-term sprinter, yeah, we have marathons now, but they're just not quite as popular as those fast people. Well, in business, it's going to be a lot more like a long-term run, more like a marathon. And you've got to kind of lock into that before you get started, because if not, you're going to be jumping around trying to make things happen. You're going to try to make things happen too fast, and it's a long race, I'm telling you. Now, the best thing I can give you is here about 4 points regarding the steps that I think it would take to make a successful business. And I'm going to use an analogy because I'm carrying here with me a CDL commercial driver's license. It's CDL stands for Commercial Driver's License, and it allows me to drive any of the largest semi-trucks, the biggest trucks on the highway. I can legally drive that because I at one time owned a trucking company that's what we did. We had big trucks, we had medium-sized trucks, and I had drivers all over the United States, and I just needed to get that driver's license just in case I needed to drive. And I did drive from time to time to go retrieve a truck or finish a job, but I wasn't my regular job to drive. But I was always amazed at those people that got the award for 1,000,000 miles without an accident. Are you kidding me? 1,000,000 miles. I checked it from Boston to LA. That's about 3,000 miles. And 1,000,000 miles would mean that that driver that got 1,000,000 miles, usually takes 20, 25 years, would have to have driven the entire length of the United States 350 times. That's amazing. Well, how do they do that? Let me tell you what a driver does and how that relates to business. First of all, a safe driver is going to stay inside their lane. They're not going to try to jump into if there's 3 lanes on the highway, they're not always moving left lane, middle lane, fast lane, back in, always trying to drive by somebody. They get settled in to the lane that's best for them. They don't change lanes very often. And then when they know an exit's coming up and they're going to get exit here maybe in a mile or two, they'll be very careful and move over to the lane that they need in. Well, you know what? If you're going to be successful in business, you better get in the right lane for you. Not a truck lane, not a driving lane, but the lane that fits you. And then stay there. Don't keep jumping around. Don't jump from one opportunity to the next opportunity. I hear people from time to time tell me how great an opportunity this new situation is. And I wonder, now how long have they been pursuing opportunities, and how long have they been jumping from one opportunity to the next? And at the end of 25 years, they have nothing to show for it because they didn't stay inside the lane. I ask you, are you staying inside your lane of ability and skills? Are you developing patience? You ask yourself that. You have to be honest with yourself. You've got to let time for the fruit that's planted to mature and grow so that you can have a harvest. Stay inside your lane. Number 2, I would say that a good driver, a good over-the-road driver, he creates a pattern of knowing his awareness of where he's at in relation to other cars. Let me tell you how it works. If I'm driving in the driver's seat of a big semi, I've done it, I would make a habit of looking left into my mirror, looking right into my mirror, and looking in the front a short distance, maybe 200 yards, 300 yards, and then looking out maybe as far as I could see, a half mile or more. And then on a routine, I would look to my left, I would look to my right, I would look close, and I would look at a distance. It becomes a habit. I know where I'm at inside my surroundings, and I know what's happening around me. There's no surprise, because if there's a police car coming from behind me, or somebody accelerating fast behind me, or a big truck coming behind me, I've already noticed It has been coming there for the last 5 or 6 minutes, and I see where they're at, and I notice ahead that somebody's slowing down, and I notice in the distance there might be something, an accident or something. I know my surroundings. Well, in business, you better be looking around. You better be assessing what's happening around you at all times. We have more data than we've ever had before. We have data from the internet. We have data from books. We have data from associations. But you know, the data that's important to you is that's around you. It isn't around those other cars on the road. It's around you. You better be on top of your game. You better be knowing what other people are doing. You better be doing some research into your competitors. You better know the new trends and trades of your customers, where they're headed, what they want to know. You should be looking ahead, looking a short distance ahead, then looking a long distance ahead, and looking left and right. You know what is coming, and you're not surprised with anything. Number 3. Well, on number 2, are you aware of your surroundings in your business? Are you on top of what's coming up next? Are you aware of what's fading out? Ask yourself that. Are you doing a good job in that? Number 3. Well, a good driver is going to have to back up. And if you look at some of these trucks, the trucks we drove were the largest that could go on the road. And you have to be able to back up using the mirrors and not hit something behind you. Well, guess what? In business, there's times that you're going to have to stop and back up. You're going to have to look behind. And you know what a good driver would do? They would pick a time and get into position. If they have any doubt, they would put the brake on, open the door, jump back around, and take a look, because they are not going to have an accident backing up. Well, you know, in business, you're going to have to, from time to time, take a good look and say, is this a time for me to change lanes? Not just lanes, change the course, change the definition, change where I'm headed. I can't go into detail, but I had about 3 major changes in my life. I was raised on a farm and ranch, and I knew that my dad had wanted me to go to college, and the economy wasn't good at that time, and I finished my college degree, and I went to work in my first big change. It was a big oil company in a construction setup, and I was there for 9.5 years. And then you know what? It was time to get out of the vehicle, get out of my future, look around, and make a major change. And I moved 1,200 miles to go to Bible school in a town in the middle of the United States. And in that process, I planned to have a great job, but it didn't happen. And so I had to create my own, by necessity, my own moving and storage company. And you know, I had that for 17 years. But you know, I had to, like backing up, I had to stop and take a real close look, because what was happening in my industry and where I was at was not going to be happy. I was not going to end up where I wanted. And I sold that. And then I set out for 6 years, and now I own this machine shop. I have no plans of selling this. I'm looking to help you. This is my passion now, to help you in inspiring better business. And so I'm here to help you and I keep this business because it keeps me fresh and alive. But you see what I mean? Now ask yourself, are you on a course that you're going to be happy with in the next 5 years? Don't just jump ship like I mentioned the first time, jumping lanes, but you've got to be honest. There's times you need to make a switch, and you make a major directional change in your life and in your business, or you're going to find yourself very disappointed. Well, to wrap up here, details matter. Sometimes we're focused on things that really don't count. You've got to learn to focus on the big things. I'm reading here behind here, Albert Einstein said this: everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. And everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. Let me tell you what he's talking about. That driver that got 1,000,000 miles, he didn't count every time he backed up. You can't really count that. But every single time when he backed up, it counted. He didn't count every time he drove a short distance or went through inside a tight turn and he made the right choice, or he avoided an accident. He really didn't count those, but they counted. You follow what I'm saying? Everything that can be counted does not necessarily count. Well, at the end, he went 1,000,000 miles, and that's a good count. But there's a lot of things that he was not able and did not need to count that he could have counted, but he was counting the important things. That's what it's saying. Are you counting the important things? Are you have your focus on, like in business, you know, you can count sales easily, you can count revenue easily, but are you counting how the receptionist answers the phone? Are you counting how clean the bathrooms are in your restaurant? Are you counting how people address that work for you, how they address each other? Those are little things that you really count, and you can't actually put a number and count, but boy, do they really, really count. Now, in finishing up, I'm just going to make another quote here that if you will pay attention to the details and take care of the little things, you will find that the big things will take care of themselves. Take care of the little things, make it a habit, and the big things, the end result, you'll find yourselves maybe years down the line, maybe, things don't happen overnight, so get that out of your head.